Hey guys, how are you all? It's me, Talk to Krishna again with a new concept video. So, what are we going to learn in today's video? Well, we are going to learn about anti-knocking agents. Well, we are familiar with this word anti-knocking agents. We may have heard it in our 10th standard, but do not know what it is actually. See, when I researched about this, it was quite a nightmare for me because it was terrible. It just tells me what half knowledge of for something can do for the world. So let's not waste any more time. And before that, I want to introduce myself to all the new viewers. I'm Sai Krishna. I'm a student currently pursuing data science bachelor's degree at IARE. So what are the objectives of today's presentation? Well, we will introduce ourselves to what exactly are anti-knocking agents, discovery of anti-knocking agents, exploring various anti-knocking agents. Please bear with me with the whole presentation as it is a more theoretical presentation than a visual presentation. So just bear with me for some time. I'll try my level best to make it as excited as I can. So first introduce ourselves to anti-knocking agents. An anti-knocking agent is a gasoline additive used to reduce engine knocking and increase the fuel's octane rating by raising the temperature and pressure at which auto-ignition occurs. The mixture is known as gasoline or petrol. When used in high compression internal combustion engines has tendency to knock, also called pinging or pinking, and or to ignite early before the correctly timed spark occurs. Pre-ignition refers to engine knocking. So it's just a good agent which stops engine from igniting itself before we want it to. Okay. So discovery of anti-knocking agents. Who discovered these anti-knocking agents? Early research was led by A. H. Gibson and Harry Ricardo in England and Thomas McGilly Jr. and Thomas Boyd in the United States. The discovery that led additive modified this behavior led to the widespread adoption of the practice in 1920s and therefore more powerful, higher compression engines. The most popular additive was tetraethyl lead. However, with the discovery of the environmental and health damage caused by lead, attributed to Derek Brio Smith and Claire Cameron Patterson, and the incompatibility of lead with catalytic converters found on the virtually all US automobiles since 1975, this practice began to wane in 1980s. Most countries are phasing out leaded fuel, although different additives still contain lead compounds. Other additives include aromatic hydrocarbons, ethers, and alcohols, usually ethanol or methanol. So we are done with our introduction. What are anti-knocking agents and what were their long-term effects which were found later the discovery which caused so much concern. I just want to point out that lead is a heavy metal which has the capacity to make uh, make pregnancy difficult. Moreover, it has a very bizarre effect on human brain and can influence uh, out of social order thoughts into one's brain. Because of this, between 1950 and 1970, there were many serial killers, or let's say wicked crimes in US were a lot. No one understood why suddenly these crimes increased. Later, it was found out it was all because of lead additives which were in the vehicles. Moreover, all these sidewalks or trees which were beside main roads were all died because of pollution caused by lead emissions. which were settled on the footpaths or the side roads. That's the thing that I wanted to point out. So let's explore different kinds of anti-knocking agents or different anti-knocking agents altogether. Altogether, the main and the most important and the most widely used one is tetraethyl lead. In the US, where tetraethyl lead had been blended with gasoline primarily to boost octane levels since the early 1920s, standards to phase out leaded gasoline were first implemented in 1973, but the damage was already done. From 1920 to 1973, there were continuous lead emissions in the environment which had greatly devastated both the humans as well as the environment. So these lead additives must be removed. In 1995, leaded fuel accounted for only 0.6% of total gasoline sales and less than 2,000 tons of lead per year. From January 1st, 1996, the Clean Air Act banned the sale of leaded fuel for use in on-road vehicles in the United States. Possession and use of leaded gasoline in a regular on-road vehicle now carry a maximum fine of 10,000 US dollars in the United States. However, the fuel containing lead may continue to sold for off-road uses including aircraft, racing cars, farm equipment and marine engines. The ban on leaded gasoline led to 1,000 fewer tons of lead being released into the air by automobiles. A side effect of lead additives was the protection of the valve seats from erosion. Many classic car engines have needed modification to use lead-free fuel since leaded fuel became unavailable. However, lead substitute products are also produced and can sometimes be found at auto parts stores. Gasoline, as delivered at the pump, also contains additives to reduce internal engine carbon buildups, improve combustion, and allow easier starting in cold climates. In some parts of South Africa, leaded gasoline is still in use. Leaded gasoline was phased out in sub-Saharan Africa starting 1st January 2006. A growing number of countries have drawn up plans to ban leaded gasoline in the near future, which is a good thing, by the way. Some experts speculate that leaded petrol was behind a global crime wave in late 1980s and early 1990s, as I have said, but before that, in the US, it was devastating. Now, it is 1980s to 1990s was globally because the world started to modernize after 1970s, as you all know. So exploring next, we have MTBE. As tetraethyl lead use declined, the industry had to decide how to make up the octane deficit between the principal marketable light fuel produced by their refineries and the higher octane fuels needed for high compression gasoline engines in the automobile fleet. Around 70% of the difference was accommodated by more advanced processes at the refinery stage, cracking other hydrocarbon products from the distillation stack to modify them into fuels that would blend gasoline closer to the appropriate octane. Most of the rest of the octane deficit required chemical additives not derived from the refinery process. Tetraethyl lead was largely replaced in the US with methyl tert-butyl ether starting in 1979. MTBE is a toxic water pollutant, and a series of groundwater contamination scandals starting in the 90s prompted the EPA, that is Environmental Protection Agency of the United States, to begin phasing MTBE out in 2000. Next is ethanol. MTBE's water pollution issues prompted plans for a phase-out starting in 2000 with an EPA draft proposal, which was addressed several times at the state level in the years to follow and eventually cemented in place federally with a 9-year phase-out in 2005's Energy Policy Act, with significant proportions of fuel ethanol designated as the replacement anti-knock agent for the US automotive fuel system. Important thing is Congress attempts to promote ethanol for its geopolitical use as a backstop on any attempts to limit the US gasoline supply, and also its incentives to reward low-end corn farmers. It's not low-end, it's Iowa corn farmers whose state political primaries hold a special place in the electoral system, escalated ethanol from an additive to be used as needed, then to a fixed blending proportion of 5% and then 10%, which is today the most common US fuel blend. So politically also, these are things happening. Ethanol has several issues as an anti-knock additive. It is hydrophilic, pulling water vapor out of moist air, and it also increases the level of free oxygen in the fuel significantly. Both of these causes significant degradation to traditionally constructed engines, posing both residue and corrosion issues in increasing proportions with increasing fractions of ethanol. Whereas age-dreaded gasoline may simply polymerize, evaporate, and thus lose its flammability, age-degraded gasoline ethanol blends can cause several damages if allowed to sit in an engine. Automotive engines addressed this with the mandated shift over to ethanol-tolerant metals and seals, and with the use of smart electronic fuel injection, which has some flexibility to adjust combustion properties and timing. Automotive engines did not see major issues because of these factors, and because automobiles in active use typically cycle through their gas tanks in matter of weeks. In small carburetor engines like generators and lawnmowers, ethanol damage becomes the dominant mode of failure. Now it's time for MMT. Methyl cyclopentadienyl manganese tricarbonyl, mouthful of course, has been used for many years in Canada and recently in Australia to boost octane ratings. It allows old cars designed to use leaded fuel to run on unleaded fuel without the need for additives to prevent valve seam erosion. A large Canadian study from 2002 funded by automakers who are against its use concluded that MMT impairs the effectiveness of automobile emission control and increased pollution from motor vehicles. However, a later study by the Canadian government found that no notice of defect was found to be potentially caused by MMT. While the structure of MMT suggests lipophilicity and potential to bioaccumulate, comparison of bioconcentration factors reported for plant and animal species in comparison to regulatory-based cutoffs, US EPA and EU REACH, indicates a low bioaccumulative potential of MMT. A variety of related complexes are known, including ferrocene, which is also under consideration as an additive gasoline. So with this, we conclude exploring various anti-knocking agents which are used as fuel additives. So what is my summary? Let's see. Anti-knocking agents had their own benefit, but they were toxic, so alternatives were started being used. This decreased much of lead poisoning among people. That's it. So thank you guys for bearing with me. I know it was theoretical, but knowledge is knowledge. Okay. Let's meet with another in another video. Till then, have a good one. Sayonara.